Welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, September 11th, 2014. Today we are recording at Communitech. Love being back at Communitech. I guess that's all we have to say about it. We've said lots of good things about Communitech already in the past.
Yeah, we're back in the Star Wars room, it looks like.
Yeah, we've got some interesting... It's like the AT-AT walker combined with, street graffiti. It's kind of a street cred, Imperial
I like it.
Mix. Yeah.
I want one.
It looks like Transformers a little bit.
It does look a bit Transformery, it's true. Yeah. Well, let's make some introductions. Joining me... Oh, well, I should introduce myself first, I guess. My name is Darren Conley. I'm a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. With me is my co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm not unwell.
You're not unwell.
Which is George Carlin, who was dead, unfortunately. But I love him.
You're probably doing better than George Carlin.
A little bit, yeah. I wanted to really quickly thank Sweet Tooth because we were up there this week checking out their offices at the Hacker Nest event. Right. Which, if you don't know what the Hacker Nest event is, it's a very unscripted, similar to TSP Weekly event where a whole bunch of smarter people than I am get together, drink water, wine, and beer, and scream at each other. So it's very loud.
Depends how loud it is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically a gathering of geeks. Happens quarterly. So we just had an event at Sweet Tooth here locally. So thanks very much for graciously hosting us, and I met some really cool people up there. So if you guys are around and see a Hacker's Nest around, definitely go check it out. You can donate, but it's free to get in.
Yeah. And free beer is usually not a hard draw to get people into an event. Usually.
That's right.
Joining us also today are Stephen Amoah and Matthew McCreath, both from MyCareerCity. And we'll hear a little bit more about what MyCareerCity is all about. But welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm really excited for today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Our pleasure as well. Let's talk a little bit of tech news before we find out what MyCareerCity is about. First up, we have all of our tech news this week is actually from TechCrunch Disrupt, which is going on as we record this. A big conference down in the States for tech startups. So we have this group called Self-Lender. Self-Lender is all about helping people to rebuild their credit scores and get their credit back on track. So they have this platform, I guess we would call it, to help people kind of, especially people with poor credit or no credit, get a jump start on establishing themselves with the credit world. So the way it works is they will lend you a small amount of money, relatively small amount of money, which sits in an escrow account. So the money doesn't actually come into your hands. It's sitting in an account somewhere, and then the person who is quote unquote borrowing the money will pay back that amount over a certain number of months, so 6 months or 9 months or a year, and you can make payments of between $25 or $250 a month or anything in between. The self-lender themselves takes $3 per month as their fee. And then after you've paid back the amount of your loan, you get your money back, I guess, minus self-lender's fees, and hopefully, a nice credit score bump to get you to the place where you're able to, get a credit card or a mortgage or whatever it is that you're looking to get. Interesting kind of system. When I first heard about this, I thought, what a great idea as a startup. Self-lender themselves are able to kind of use the funds that I'm assuming they're using the funds that they're getting to invest a little bit and generate an income stream for themselves beyond just the $3 a month that they're taking. But, apparently it's a fairly large market that they're addressing of, people who have subprime credit. According to them, between 70 and 90 million people have subprime credit due to lack of payment history. So this establishes a payment history for them and gets them on track.
It's fascinating. I think, the first thought I have is that I'm really good at World of Warcraft, and I have a million gold there. But in my bank account, in reality,
not quite
it's
a
not so
million gold.
much, you know. So if we could gamify that, I like sitting on my cell phone and collecting diamonds and knowing that I'm, you know, progressing in the whole role-playing game or leveling up, or that progression of gamification gives you.
Sure.
And what better place to gamify than your actual bank account when you're, you know,
It's
having
true.
real impact instead of saving quarks or
Yeah.
you know, bitcoins or imaginary. Like, I spent real money. I shouldn't say this. I spent real money buying World of Warcraft money at one point in my
dream
life.
is I one day hope to have a company where I get people to give me real money and I can give them something that only exists as ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I've done
that's
it.
just me.
I feel like I'm ashamed, but I needed that hammer plus 2.
Sure. See, and I don't know how much of it is gamified per se. I know it can make automatic withdrawals from your paycheck to make your payments and stuff. I'm sure they could incorporate some more gamification into it, right? To you know, I don't know, see how your progress is building, or ways to kind of increase it faster and things like that.
Yeah,
But,
it seems like it's maybe it's not gamification, but it's almost like by putting it on the cell phone, which I, you know, neurotically pull out of my pocket every hour to check.
Yeah.
It's almost, maybe it's not a game, but I can see myself being with that much access to it and that much awareness of it.
Yeah. You're more well
I'm
connected
more,
to it.
yeah,
I guess,
and I want
right?
to pay it back, and I'll sneak an extra payment in now,
Right.
or something, you know, where
Right.
it's really top of mind for you.
Sure.
So I really like the idea. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Now,
do you guys think?
Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I love the idea because, I mean, thinking when I first read the article, I thought about my second year. My parents were very strict parents. They didn't want me to get no credit card. But as a first and second year, I knew how important getting how building a credit score at such an early age, how important that is. And so, I mean, now thinking about this new service, Self-Lender, if I were to have a Self-Lender back when I was in my first and second year, then I could start building my credit score at an earlier age. That ultimately make me buy like a car, or like, you know, start having better credit. And so I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome service.
Maybe they branch out and do a children's version, because it's
Yeah.
almost like training wheels.
Exactly.
Lending, right?
Exactly.
Maybe, or for borrowing, yeah.
For borrowing, yeah.
What about yourself, Matt? Have you ever had any credit issues, or?
So far, no. But I love the idea of it as a saving tool. That 6 months from now, I'm going to buy a car and I need a better credit score to get a better loan.
Yeah.
And by spending 6 months of getting a good payment history, there my credit score goes up, and at the end of the 6 months, I get my money back.
Yeah.
As a little lump sum as a down payment. It's a great system.
You guys
And-
don't mind paying $3 a month,
I think it's
But you probably might save the
30 bucks a year, you know, 35
You might
bucks
save
a year.
that if they give you a better interest rate or whatever terms they give you on the loan, with a better credit score, you might save that $3.
That's an excellent point, actually. Yeah, like if you can get a loan at 3% instead of 5%, especially if it's for a large purchase, then yeah, $30 a year, or you know, so much over 6 months, $18 over 6 months, yeah, something like that, is nothing compared to what you could save, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it actually becomes a bit of a savings tool, I think, as well, right? For people who are in the habit of kind of spending their whole paycheck every time they get it. This way, some of that money is being put away in this loan repayment, and then they have a chunk of cash at the end of 6 months or a year that they haven't really been able to touch. But now they can apply towards a bigger purchase or a down payment or whatever it might be, right? So I think as long as they can find the customers, right? Like as long as they can actually connect with the people who need to use the service, then I think it could be great. But I think that's going to be the real crux for them, right? Is connecting with that 70 to 90 million crowd. Like, are they the kind of people who feel comfortable, you know, participating in a service like this? Are they the kind of people who are using a mobile phone to track their finances and that sort of thing? So
I wonder if a bank
we'll
could
see.
just do this almost internally, you know, for its customers, and to say, look, you've got bad credit, so here's the plan. It's almost like a recovery.
Yeah, and
you're on this plan, and it's going to take this long, and at the end, here's the result. So,
and that might be like part of, I don't know if that's part of their business strategy or not, but to build a relationship with a bank or with several banks to say, like, here, you can implement our system with people that you previously turned down for loans or for credit lines, and this way you can take them on as a customer after they've established their payment history, right?
And what a marketing ploy to spin that whole banking on its head from we are your bank and your friends and your home and the big couches and the coffee and come and hang out with us to we're helping you, we're improving you,
Exactly.
we're on your team to make you better and make you save money and that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a different tweak that I haven't heard from a lot of banks. You know, Tangerine or ING has done that whole marketing ploy where they've redone themselves and they're not ING Direct or not ING, now they're Tangerine.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of moving space, I think, in the banking industry online and in technology, but
Sure.
it's sure will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep spending money. I don't know about you guys.
I'm planning to spend some money in the future. Sure. Well, let's move on here, guys. Another new startup that was presented at TechCrunch Disrupt this week called RezGuru. Rez, I guess, is kind of short for restaurant. This is appealing to the restaurant industry, and it's a new platform made by a more established company. Table Grabber is the name of the company that has created RezGuru. But the whole idea with RezGuru is restaurant owners would implement this platform, which allows them to collect some kind of analytic data about when customers are eating at their restaurants, when are the busy times, when are the quiet times, and then allow them to implement changes to their pricing structure or even to their seating arrangements and things like this to be able to maximize their income at different points of the day. So, the idea is you could have a restaurant that between, 8 and 10 p.m., it's really, really busy, but it's half empty at 6 o'clock. I'm just grabbing this stuff from the article here as we talk. Shouldn't there be some way that you can encourage more people to come at the slower times, right? So lowering the prices on some of the menu items, for instance, at that time of day, giving people some sort of promotion. It even is able to suggest things like breaking up tables of 4 into tables of 2 in order to get more people in. And it tracks things not just based on the restaurant's data, but also based on things like the weather or events that are going on nearby. So if it knows, more people tend to come when it rains or less or whatever it might be, then it can kind of forecast and make suggestions. It even mentioned in this article here things like suggesting closing up an hour early because the costs to operate for that last hour are going to exceed the projected income for that time. So
what a dangerous thing these guys have made.
Well, it's handing off a lot of power.
Restaurants are going to be closed down all across the U.S.
Well, I know, Stephen, you've had a lot of experience in the restaurant industry in your past, so this is why I kind of wanted to get your take on something like this. Like, what's your reaction when you hear something like this?
I'm so mixed on this, Darren, because there's it's such a complicated thing to run a restaurant, and people don't realize it. Like, there's so many different facets that go into it. But I really get worried when I start to hear things like, if it's not busy, I want a discount, or if it's cheaper, it should be less. And at the end of this article, she says something about if I'm sitting in a restaurant that's not full, I expect a discount. Right. And that's very dangerous thinking for me as a restaurant guy, because that's not how restaurants operate ever.
Well, it's not how they have traditionally operated. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's uncharted territory, and I think there's some danger in a computer telling an inexperienced restaurateur to split Four Tops up and to close now. Like, you do not want to close. Restaurants have to stay open to the same time all the time because the guests are going to go at 9 o'clock at night and, oh, I'm sorry, we closed today. Well, you were open yesterday at 9 o'clock, but today you're not. Well, the algorithm said that this was going to cost us $12, so we're closed. I'm sorry. Well, you're done. Like, I just read an interesting article about a restaurant that in Philadelphia that had a Sean McCoy come in, a football player, NFL millionaire football player, or wealthy. I don't know how he manages his money, but he gets paid a lot.
Yeah, sure.
So he went in with 3 or 4 guys to a burger joint, sat down, had a $60 tab, and left the server 20 cents.
What?
So it was 0.03% tip.
Right.
I think it was. And so it was the lowest that this restaurant establishment had ever seen. The owner and the manager were sitting at a table next to these football players. So the owner made the decision to post the receipt on social media.
Right.
Shame.
I have heard of this, actually. I came across this week.
Yeah, so it really backfired.
Right.
Which is interesting. Instead of people saying, yes, this millionaire should have tipped better, and it really, there was some, I think it was a smokescreen about service.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't deserve it. the owner of the restaurant says I sat right beside the table with the manager, and he was sort of a jerk and arrogant and abusive to the staff from the moment he came in. So it's a he said, she said. But regardless, it looks like the social media backlash has hurt the restaurant, because the bottom line is you're able to tip what you want. And if the restaurant is going to show my tips to people, whether it's, what's the line then? Is 8% too low? Or what percent do I have to tip at a restaurant so they don't put me on Facebook, right?
Exactly.
Because they have my name, my credit card number, or they can take a picture of me, and you're out in public, right? So that was interesting too. So that when you get to that level of I don't know. It's an art. It's not a science.
Sure.
They're trying to make a science of it, and there is some things you do want some standard operating procedures for reservations, for ordering, for first in, first out, for food rotation, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I would worry that you, as a manager, go to sit down at the computer to check where your sales are at for the night, and it says your 6 steaks need to go on sale right now.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to go bad.
Like, that's not. You're not keeping your eye on the ball there. It's penny wise, pound foolish, I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's like you said. There is an art to it, and I guess some people are better at the art side of it than others, right? So maybe this is an app that can kind of address those people who haven't figured out all the finer nuances of managing those things, like when my food is going to expire and how I should offer promotions and discounts to maximize my profit, and so you can apply some science to it through this. And
sure, once your systems are in place, when the restaurant's full, the dynamic manager is checking on all those systems in a constant loop throughout the night.
Sure.
So as long as the systems are sturdy, and in good good systems, the dynamic manager is checking on all those. So it would be neat to have a tool to help you.
Yeah, well, and I think we have to keep in mind, like, this is a tool. You're not handing over control of your entire restaurant to
menu prices
AI
just changed on the board all of a
That's
sudden.
right. Skynet is not going to take over, your burger joint.
Yeah. When we get the tab, well, I'll have to go ask the computer. I'll go ask Hal how much he owes you.
That's right. So it is a tool. You can choose to follow what it suggests you, or you could choose to ignore it, I guess. And I guess there has to be a certain level of trust in the ability of the tool to perform. If you are going to trust it, and I guess you could always just experiment, right? Follow it for a little while and see if it helps.
Yeah,
and,
I wish him luck. It's certainly a big undertaking, I think, to tackle the whole. It's not even the reservation system. It's the whole. It's the whole shooting match, it sounds like. It's a really large chunk of the analytics. I would be interested, just for research purposes, to know, like, how does the weather affect my customers coming into a restaurant? How much money am I losing by staying open to 11 when I could be closing at 10 potentially? And it doesn't have to be flexible that very night. You could make a permanent change over the course of a year.
Yeah, because you could say it costs us $300 a week to stay open, and we're only making $250 a week on average during those times, or whatever, right? To inform those things. Do you guys go to a lot of restaurants? What do you think?
I typically don't go to a lot of restaurants, but I'm just thinking from a B2C standpoint, from a brand perspective, from the restaurants. I'll be overly annoyed if one day it's open at until 10 p.m. and after the next day is open at 6 or something. I'll be overly annoyed, because I can't have a definitive, or know what's going on every single day, and so my perception of that restaurant wouldn't be too good, because I want to know what's going on. What prices are going to be changing up and down. Times are going to be open, different times, and so
I'll
probably be annoyed from a B2C standpoint. But from the owners of the restaurant standpoint, I think that it does make sense from the first in, first out perspective, and also for inventory reasons.
Sure.
And
I guess, like I said, people can choose if they want to just use it to manage inventory and a few other aspects. That's great. If they want to change all their hours, rewrite the menus and everything else, then there's that kind of option, I guess, too. I wonder if this will be kind of the impetus to introduce like a more flexible model of how restaurants operate, right? And if we're going to see this as a general rule now, where prices are changing at different points of the day, and or if there are going to be I don't know, just a more fluid kind of structure based on these kind of analytics. Because once you start changing the structure, then you start changing the data that comes in, right? The data accommodates to the new structure, and then you have new analysis of data, and then you have new structural changes, and it's that feedback cycle, right?
Sure. And this isn't a new concept. Like, none of this is new. They've done early bird specials for forever to get the seniors in at 5 o'clock before the baby boomers come in at 7. And then they have the late night menu at the bar, the munchies, where they'll do it for a couple bucks just to try to get the restaurant people that are leaving work on the way home. And the restaurant industry's known about those soft spots for a long time, and trying to get people out on Tuesday night, Wednesday night. And so
it's almost unusual to see a restaurant that doesn't have, a daily special of some sort, and a lot of restaurants are like half price apps after 9, or the lunch menu is smaller portions for a cheaper price, but they get them out faster and things like this. So yeah, you're right. It's just making putting some solid science, I guess, into what's going on instead of just the human factor trying to work it out. So,
which makes me want to put some solid food into my human factor this early in the morning as we talk about all that.
You getting hungry, Stephen?
Yes, I'm a little peckish.
That's all right. We're only a third of the way through the podcast here, so we'll get some food after, maybe.
I'll try not to bite Stephen.
There you go. Yeah. In case you guys didn't catch it, we have 2 Stevens here. So, if you hear the typical Stephen voice, that's, the co-host Stephen, and the voice you've never heard before is the other Stephen.
Hello.
Perfect. One more article we wanted to take a look at here, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this startup. It's spelled Allre. Allre?
Sure.
Allre. I'm going to say Allre. It's a real estate-based startup, so I'm guessing the RE is short for real estate.
All real estate.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense.
But I'm going to say Allre until somebody proves it otherwise. Allre, it's a step into trying to make real estate transactions a completely online event. And I think there's been a lot of talk about having something like this out there for a while in the industry. And I think there have been a lot of people who have tried to take a crack at this nut and have not done too well. But this group, once again, that presented at TechCrunch Disrupt this week, seems to have a decent shot at making something like this work. So essentially what they're targeting is, I guess the people group they're targeting are the young, millennials. I hate to use the term millennial, but
you just
young
used
people.
it twice.
Let's just say young people. I'm going to say young people.
Youngins.
That's right. Young people who are comfortable conducting their business online already, and who are used to kind of doing their own research and making their own decisions. Feel like they don't need as much hand-holding maybe in some of these decisions that the older generation might have experienced.
So anybody under the age of 50 you're talking about?
Well, I don't know, right? Like this has always been the argument for real estate, is that this is such a huge transaction. You're dealing in the hundreds of thousands of dollars with real estate.
Yep.
It's probably the biggest purchase anyone will ever make in their entire life is a real estate purchase. And the whole reason that you have agents involved at all really is the psychological comfort of an expert standing beside you, giving you that advice, negotiating on your behalf, walking you through every step of the process, because there is, layers of complication in the paperwork and the legal factors involved and so on and so forth. It's good to kind of know that you have an expert that you can connect with as one human being to another to assure you that you're doing things the right way and you're not screwing up any of the steps.
And those experts are compensated quite handsomely for that. And what this is trying to do is remove that. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, pretty much. And I'm assuming that the company itself is taking a piece of compensation for providing the service, but something that's lower than you would typically be paying a real estate agent. So they have this platform. It's not just for kind of hunting for houses, picking the one you want and clicking on buy necessarily. It offers the platform for negotiation between buyer and seller, for dealing with the finances involved if you need to take out a loan, which most people will need to do, finding a mortgage.
What does it do with the gated MS, or what is it, the real estate brokerage list? What is that, the MS?
I'm not sure.
You know what I'm talking about? So the realtors list where all the analytics are kept by the realtors, and you as a citizen can't just go and look at what all the houses in the area have sold for over the last 10 years.
Right.
Like
well, apparently they have access to that kind of data. Now, I'd have to take another look through the article just to be sure, but I am sure that they said that they have access to that data, and they're able to help the buyers and sellers price the homes appropriately when they're making an offer or offering a sell price. I think that they've actually made a deal with an existing organization to be able to have access to that data. I don't think they're just collecting it all from scratch themselves.
Because that all exists in a list, and I don't know why it's not coming to my mind. All I can think of is MSRP, which is manufacturer's suggested retail price, and that's not it. But there's a list of realtors, homes, and all that analytics that the realtors just go and plug right into, right?
Right.
So because we had a friend that was a realtor, and we're trying to buy a house, and she says, well, let me look and see if that's a good price or not, So they have all those analytics, but they've kept it behind a walled garden, right? So the public can't get into that information, and that's part of the reason why you need a realtor is, am I offering the right price? What does the market say this house is worth? And all those analytics. So if they could do that in competition with that list, then that would be where the success would come, I would think.
One of the things I'm a little bit worried with that is, the more I've watched on CNBC, they've been having segments on real estate, home purchasing, that kind of thing. And they're finding that a lot of the pickup in home prices haven't been because of youth buying. Right. It hasn't been because of the millennials and the youth and such. They are finding that it's economically better to rent your property rather than purchase. And that seems like the demographic that would be most comfortable with doing a $500,000 transaction or $100,000 transaction online.
Yep.
And if they're looking more for rental property versus actually purchasing, how does that dynamic play out in this business model? Because do they need the 20-something-year-old person to be the one purchasing, or is this more for the 30, 40-year-old that's willing to do this online for that saving?
Yeah, it flips to who's going to rent it now. It's not own and live, it's own and rent. Well, so it's a business model again.
And I've heard there have been a lot of kind of discussions on both sides, right, about buying versus renting and which one is more cost effective, and it's there is some sort of tipping point that tips it one way or the other, right? If the market is this way with these kind of lending rates, and if the market in your particular area is in this situation versus that situation, then there's often a trade-off one way or the other, depending on what you want to buy or whatever. I myself am renting right now and don't feel bad about it necessarily, but I would definitely be interested in exploring buying opportunities when I'm able to do so. I lived out of the country for 5 years. This is my problem. They need to have so many years worth of kind of work and living experience, and when I lived out of the country, I lost all that. So, yeah. But you guys don't need to hear about my my real estate history.
There's a lot of intangibles when you buy a house too. Like how much is having a garden out back worth, or so that's that ownership of pride in ownership and stuff like that. So there's a lot of homes around Conestoga College that are being rented.
Right.
And you can tell, the rentals versus the homes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of considerations there.
Well, and I think in my perspective, what it's going to come down to ultimately is like, how much do you need your hand held through that process, right? How much do you need the psychological comfort that's afforded to you by having an expert saying, this is what you need to do not do this. Here's the wise choice, here's the not wise way to go through it. Or making those recommendations like, here's, you still have to have someone come in and take measurements of the house. You still need to have someone come in and check out the electrical and the plumbing and everything else and make sure things are, have it all inspected. Now, apparently, Allre is offering referral services to people who can do that as well as another one of their income streams. But one way or another, there will be people involved in the other layers of this process. It can't all just happen on the internet. And having another person there to walk you through those steps of the process, I think, is very comforting for most people before they're willing to dump out hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a purchase like this. And I know if I was trying to do everything online, I would be a little bit afraid. Like, am I getting taken somehow here? Could I be saving another $10,000 if I did it this way?
Right.
I'd really like someone to say to me, like, you should really, here's a loophole you can exploit, or here's a way that you can approach it.
It just came to me. It's called the MLS.
Right.
And it's called the multi-listing service. And it's almost like the Kelley Blue Book. So when you're selling your car, you have this authority that says, yes, this is a value that is appropriate. So with the multi-listing service, if you have access to that, you have that security blanket that, yes, I am spending $500,000, and yes, this is worth, because this multi-listing service says it's worth $500,000. So not only do I think it is, and everybody else says it is, but this listing says it is, and everything's good. So,
Sure. Yeah, and I think, as we mentioned before, Allre says they have a pricing tool that takes data from the previous year's worth of sales in a particular neighborhood and then creates a list of comparables. So they have some sort of analytic tool of their own, right? But it's still a lot of data for them to manage, right? They haven't specified whether they're kind of covering the whole country with this service, or I'm assuming it's in the U.S. only at this point. But it's a lot to manage.
So do you call that big data or big data?
Oh, I don't know. I tend to say data, I guess.
Otherwise, you think of a big Star Trek robot.
Maybe.
Big data.
Maybe. A big data sounds a little terrifying to me.
Yeah, small data is fun. In a dark alley at night in the rain.
All right. On that note, let's.
If you need a segue, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. No problem. Let's talk a little more here with Stephen and Matt from MyCareerCity. Now, MyCareerCity, I checked out the website very briefly, so I have a basic idea of what it's all about. But maybe if you guys could just kind of give us the 1-minute version of what MyCareerCity is attempting to do, and let us know. Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick pitch about MyCareerCity. And so currently, MyCareerCity.com is connecting students and recent graduates from across North America to work for a startup. And so we have students and recent graduates from Toronto, Kitchener-Waterloo, Vancouver, Montreal, San Francisco, Boston, New York.
Wow.
So yeah, we're trying to tackle the startup ecosystems across North America to really promote working for a startup for students. Now,
do you have to be from one of those specific cities?
No, you don't have to be from one of those specific cities. We just chose those 7 cities as an initial target.
Okay.
Because those are like the main vibrant cities, startup cities within North America.
Okay. So hopefully the startup is based in one of those cities, but if I'm looking to work for a startup, I could be living in wherever and maybe...
Tucumcari, New Mexico.
Sure. And maybe move or telecommute to wherever that startup is if I want to get involved, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so if somebody's from London, England, or even from, let's say, Austin, Texas,
keep it weird, Austin.
What we've noticed actually, and Matthew McCreath has been managing, is people are interested in going to these 7 destinations, whether it's for the glamour or just like the hype of those 7 cities, and so they're willing to relocate. So yeah.
Okay. Now, if I was, say, a startup, and I do have a startup of my own, I'm looking for talent, walk me through the process. What would I do if I came to MyCareerCity.com? It's MyCareerCity.com, that's the website?
Yeah.
What would I do if I wanted to get connected with some talent to work for me?
Yep, and so you'd go to MyCareerCity.com, and then there's a button called Looking to Hire Top Talent. Click on that button, and then after that, an email notification will come to my co-founder, Eugene, who handles all sales. And then after, he would be the personal account executive and will be going through the process with the startup founder. So first we'll do an assessment in regards to finding out what your talent needs are, whether you need business or technical talent. And also we'll also do inquire to see if you're funded or not, if you're funded startup or not funded, because it gives us a better indicator to see how much compensation you could give for your intern.
So Stephen, what does that process look like? Am I filling out a form? Are we having a discussion on the telephone? Are we texting each other?
Yeah, and so
how does that work?
So I guess to begin, we have the startup founders fill out a Google Docs form, and then after that, the co-founder, the account executive, he actually calls the startup.
Okay, so it is a personal conversation they have.
Exactly.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then once I've been through that process of kind of explaining what my startup's all about and how much I'm able to pay an intern potentially, how do I get out there? How do I get the word out there of what I need?
Yep. And so we offer different packages in regards to recruitment efforts. And so if you want to promote your startup to our network of students across North America, we have a social media package, but also we do personal recruiting, and so we do headhunting. And so somebody like Matthew McCreath would actually go and recruit top talent. And then once we have the top talent, then we would provide that top talent to the startup founders.
Okay. And so that's making some sort of introduction or sending an email saying we found a bunch of people for you. Do you want to interview them kind of thing? Or
so we've actually tested a couple business models. Yeah. So something cool that we had is called the Top Talent Program. And so we recruited the top 50 talent from across North America. So from MIT, from Columbia University, University of Waterloo. And on a weekly basis, we send the startup founders our top 5 candidates per week. And so from that list, they have the opportunity to interview any of those candidates and then proceed from there. So that's one alternative. The other alternative is actually direct recruiting, in which we actually go find talent, and after we just send you five candidates for you to interview. So there's 2 different kind of models.
And is it all done through a personal account manager, like you said, or is there a platform where I can log in and search through the talent as a startup owner myself? Or
and so currently our website is still under construction, and so we're currently doing a concierge service, and so everything will be done by a account executive. Our end vision is to actually have a marketplace or a platform in which startup founders can engage with these top talent. So it's going to be similar to the LinkedIn kind of idea, in which a startup founder can view the top talent's profile and then can request to be introduced to the candidate. Okay,
awesome. Now, how long before I get into the company history and stuff, now if I'm a talent,
and you are,
sure. If I'm a dude looking to work for a startup, how does that process go again? Like same thing. I go to your website. I click to sign up somewhere. I guess saying I'm looking to work for a startup, and then what happens after that?
Yes, and so a candidate would go to our website. Sign up on our website. Then after we receive notification on our back end of who the person is. And then we do a pre-screen, and so we look at the LinkedIn profile. Then after we email them, asking them to fill out a form to find out which cities they want to work in. Right. And so let's say a candidate wants to work in either New York, Toronto, or San Francisco. Then we have a better indicate. We have the data to know. So maybe he's potentially going to be a good fit with this company in San Francisco. We also find out if they're business or technical talent, and also if they're willing to take salary or equity. Right. And so it gives us much more information in regards to, if this young individual wants equity, we can let that startup know that this person is looking to take equity rather than salary.
Okay. Do you
find that most of you're talking about moving from potentially Kitchener-Waterloo to Silicon Valley. So is that on the talent dime, or is most of the time the startup saying, we've identified the guy or the girl that we want. Thank you very much to you guys at your website. Do they fly them out, or do I have to then get out there? Is there a standard operating procedure there, or is it just every case by case is different?
Yeah, and so typically case by case is different. And so if a startup is interested in recruiting a student, so if they're in San Francisco, they can hire a University of Waterloo student. We let them coordinate it by themselves. We just be more on the back end, and so we do the introduction. This candidate wants to interview. This founder wants to interview this candidate, and so we let them work from there.
Yeah, they can figure out Skype or fly them out or whatever they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
And if I'm a student looking to get hired somewhere, after I've kind of gone through that screening process and come on board, how do I track my own progress as far as is anybody interested in me, or what are you guys doing for me? Do I just kind of sit at home and wait to hear something back, or is there a way that I can kind of say are there any bites?
Actively
what's going on?
Keep going.
Sure.
Yeah, and so again, our website's under construction right now, but our end vision is to gamify that process. And so if you're a student, you could go on MyCareerCity.com every day to see how many views have been on your profile. And so we actually have a number count of how many views, and also similar to LinkedIn, who's viewed your profile. And so we're going to leverage our gamification kind of service as well. But for now, more on the concierge service, the student just kind of sits back, and after we let them know if any startups are interested in hiring them.
Okay. Now, my other question that's burning on my mind here is, how do you guys make money as a company? Who pays you?
Yeah, and so we actually charge the startups a recruitment fee for different packages, whether it's receiving the top talent email on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, or for us to go and headhunt the top talent. So we have 2 different fees right now.
Okay, so there's some tiered kind of pricing options.
Yeah,
and it's only the people who are recruiting that are paying into the system. It's not necessarily people who are looking for jobs.
Exactly. Yeah. So for now, we're charging the startups only, but we're constantly testing different business models.
Okay.
I guess Matthew McCreath, this would be a good segue for you to talk about some ideas that you have.
Yeah, and maybe Matt, you could let us know like what's your role at the company. We know Stephen was one of the founders here, so I'm guessing he started doing almost everything, and now is hopefully not doing all of that much. But what about yourself, Matt? What do you do?
So I connected with MyCareerCity in early this year, about April, May. And what happened was there was a competition for students to do a growth hacking exercise for another startup here in Community Tech.
Okay.
And so I did that competition. Didn't exactly do too well, but I connected.
Fail forward, my friend.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the concept I use was a lot of content marketing, and that has a very long payoff. So it didn't work out in a week.
Right.
So that was the fault of that strategy. But Stephen reached out to me to ask what strategy I used, how did I approach the competition and such. And so mid-interview, when he was asking me that, I just pitched him, hey, let me just do what I did for them for you.
Right.
And let's see where that goes. And so that led into me coming on board in a kind of growth capacity, seeing what I can do for the blog, seeing what I can do for recruiting talent. And so long-term from that perspective, my role has been, the whole process involves connecting a very qualified student with a well-funded startup that's looking to grow.
Right.
And so, at least with my experience on the student end, how can we take a student base from being top talent to the startup that's already very established?
Right.
But also, the biggest problem is there's a massive youth unemployment problem, and that's not necessarily caused by there not being enough jobs. That's also caused by students not being employable.
Right.
And so if we can find a way to profit from the self-development of our students, or at least grow from the self-development of our students, then the pool of, let's say, average talent, and the process of taking them from average to top talent, if we can help them along that process, then we have a larger base of top talent students that we can market to our startups, as well as we help the average Joe become the badass at a startup.
How do you determine the difference between a mediocre student and a top tier talent?
That's a lot easier in the startup community, because what it boils down to is what results are you generating. And
do you have a podcast, for example?
I mean that, what view count is on that podcast. All right, so you're running a blog. What kind of views are you getting? What kind of reach are you getting? What kind of weekly uniques are that?
Sure.
There's always a number we can boil it down to. So if you say you're interested in sales and you're not selling a lot, well, all right, you're average. Here are things we can put in place for you to increase your sales.
Right.
Are
And
you
so
looking
that's
at marks coming out of university?
not necessarily.
No, you're looking at what have you done today, or what have you done yesterday? What are your projects?
And what it boils down to also is maybe not the results you have today, but the results you can generate.
Right.
And so a lot of the time, the conversation you have with a startup is, all right, so I'm interested in coding. Here's a problem that my coding skills can solve for you, and here's the deliverable as a result of that project.
Right.
And that has a lot of value.
Sure.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be amazing today. It just also means what's your potential for a deliverable.
Right.
So as far as gauging who is top talent, who is not top talent, it does boil down to them and saying, hey, look, this is our program.
Right.
We're not taking $1 from you. We're trying to give you more opportunities beyond what you're already doing today. And so we got good feedback from that, although it is very difficult to find those people, because but it is the people who see the opportunity and value it tend to be very high quality.
Right.
A lot of people see the opportunity and it's a little bit intimidating. They say, oh, top talent, maybe I'm not top talent.
Right.
So that's a potential opportunity as well as a threat. But the way we reach out to them is traditional headhunting. There are people already at startups or running their own startups, or students in leadership positions that they can come on board, and we're looking to find them, get in contact with them, and bring them on board.
Do you guys do any recruiting at like a Hacker Nest event?
That's where we're looking into.
Yeah.
We need to form those partnerships with those external organizations that have that pool of top talent that we can just reach out and recruit with.
Yeah. And I'm assuming once the website kind of platform is up and running, full speed, then that's, you can just kind of advertise and get people landing on your page, right?
Exactly. Everything else will be automated pretty much. But right now, we're actually partnered with, so to answer your question, we're partnered with Inspire. So that's like the largest student entrepreneurial organization across Canada. Last March, we've actually co-hosted the National Business Technology Conference, the Career Fair. And so I think that having these partnerships is going to be critical to our success. They have like a massive student base, and so we're going to be managing that partnership again this year, and we're excited to work with them again.
Are you guys focused strictly on students, or do you do just somebody that's come out of school? I've worked for a startup for a couple of years. I'm ready to work for another startup, or is it pretty focused on students?
Yes, our focus right now is students and recent graduates.
Recent grads.
Yeah, so we find that to be our target, our niche market, because we figure that Hire.com and AngelList is much more for the seasoned professional.
Right.
And so we want to take capture of the students and recent graduates.
So you've identified your target market.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm assuming if somebody comes who's been like, I've worked for 10 years and at a big corporation now, and I want to work for a startup, are you guys going to say, no, we don't want to talk to you, leave us alone, or
what have you done? Show me your project.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't turn them down.
Right.
But just in regards to our brand, we want to be, we're branded as MyCareerCity.com, where the first thing students think about startups is MyCareerCity.com, and so we want to have that focus on students, recent graduates, not to turn down seasoned professionals, but
but that makes sense for branding, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want the old guy with the iPhone, right? Make it uncool.
You're not that old,
I should put mine away.
Come on.
Even that student market is actually really big, because even if you consider like an MBA student, they're still considered a student, but they are 20, 25, going on 30, that they have a much larger range of accomplishments that would kind of parallel a seasoned professional, but they're still in the student context.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to ask, kind of shifting gears here a little bit from what MyCareerCity does to how it kind of got started. How did it get started? You're one of the co-founders. I think you have a couple others that were with you. It wasn't just you, right?
Yeah, and so MyCareerCity, how it started. Okay, so we started MyCareerCity when we were 18 years old. Myself and my two co-founders, Eugene and Aaliyah.
Okay.
So 5 years ago, I'm 23 years old right now.
So this is like right out of high school, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So first year of university is when we started.
Yeah.
Now, MyCareerCity, we started off actually as a platform in which a high school student can get advice and mentorship from college university students across the world.
Okay.
And so if you're in grade 12 looking to go to either Conestoga College or George Brown College for their engineering program, and you don't know which one is better, back in the day, MyCareerCity.com, a high school student could go on and say, hey, how's the campus food at George Brown versus Conestoga? How's the professors?
Right.
So they can have much more of a informed decision before they actually make their final decision as to which school they want to go to.
Gotcha.
So we operated that for around 4 years, and so until last August, it was very successful. We were able to receive seed financing.
Wow.
We had over 3,000 high school students from Australia, UK, US, and Canada who were actually connecting with university and college mentors from across the world as well.
Okay.
And so it was working. Like, to see our vision coming through, and people are actually engaging with each other.
You started here in Kitchener-Waterloo or Toronto?
Kitchener-Waterloo. Yeah,
Okay.
here at Community Tech.
Wow.
And so it was working. Now the only pitfall is that we weren't able to make any revenue off that concept.
Right.
And so we're very passionate about that concept because we're making a difference in people's lives, but we're able to monetize off that.
Sure.
And so as of last July, we actually ran out of money. And so myself and my two co-founders, we are in one of these rooms that we're in right now, strategizing how we could flip this around as soon as possible, because we don't want our dream to die. We're doing good things for this world. And so we thought, and since we have a student platform already, we thought, how are we able to help students, but also be able to monetize off that immediately, so we can keep our dreams going and also help students.
Right.
And that's the idea of connecting students to startups. That's how that idea came about.
Sure.
And so
This is a great brainstorming room. It's cerulean. I can solve the world's problems here.
The Star Wars graffiti is great for stimulating mental.
I just want a pillow, and I'm going to curl up in the corner and live here. And come up with good ideas all the time.
You know, if I can just mention a couple of things based on what you said. One, I think it's very interesting that when you first started it, you know, you started as students recently graduated from high school for high school students who are soon to graduate from high school and moving into university and
There's
college.
Some foresight,
but so it was kind of addressing a need that you guys were very familiar with at that exact point of your life. And now, you know, when you've pivoted this platform to address startups that are looking, you know, for talent, once again, like it's kind of like, well, here you are in that same place, right?
Exactly.
A startup that had recently kind of run out of money, pivoting to a new direction, acquiring new talent like Matt here, and looking to kind of kick things off and push you through that growth phase through the startup. So it just, you know, it makes me wonder 4 or 5 years down the road where, you know, you guys might be at a different place and pivot to another place that's addressing where you're at that point. But I think what it means though really is that you guys have kind of gained that expertise the hard way from going through it yourself, right? So you know how to address this issue because it's an issue you guys are intimately involved in.
Exactly.
With your own groups, right?
Yeah, you immediately have buy-in when you hear your story because you know you're the experts. You've done it. You've gone through it. You've lived it. So you've seen it from the inside, and that's important.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, but the idea came about, so myself and my co-founder and CEO of our company, we're sitting in our high school class in grade 12 business class, and it was around October.
And what color were the walls there? Were they cerulean blue too? Or?
If I remember, it's turquoise.
I can work with turquoise.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So we're sitting in our grade 12 business class, and he approached me and said, "Stephen, you know, college university applications are coming soon. They're coming, I think, it's due in December. What are your top 5 universities?" I said, "Well, number one, I know I want to go to Brock University. I've always wanted to go there. Number one."
I used to teach at Brock, by the way.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
For a little while. Just for like a year and a half. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. You guys can do the secret handshake after the podcast.
So I said, I want to go to Brock University. My number 2 choice is probably U of T. Number 3 is Queens.
Right.
And then my co-founder, he says, okay, for me, my number 1 choice is Ryerson because I want to be in downtown Toronto. I just want to experience that. Yeah. My number 2 choice is Laurier.
Yeah, woo!
Stephen has a degree from Laurier.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'd go to Laurier, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes.
I know where Laurier is.
And then he said his number 3 choice was Guelph. And so he said, now, Stephen, I want to go to, this is my top 3 schools, but I don't have any relatives at any of those schools. Like, I don't have anybody to ask these questions about. I mean, if I go to the recruiters, they'll tell me what I want to hear, but not what I need to hear.
Right.
They don't tell me the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so I said, wow. It put me in perspective. Like, wow, there's not information like, you know, that's out there to give you the good and the bad. And so that's how the idea came about. So in our first year university, that's how the idea of MyCareerCity came about, helping high school students at that time transition into post-secondary. And so
and you know what I like about that idea, despite the fact that it wasn't easy to make very much money off of it or anything, but I know in my own experience it's been very similar where, you know, if you just do a Google search online about that place, that thing, you're likely to get a lot of people, you know, the people who are complainers.
Yeah.
You're likely to find a lot of negative stuff and not hear about most of the positive, right? If you talk to the recruiters, you're only going to hear the positive and they're not going to give you any of the negative. I know when I went overseas and taught overseas for 5 years in the Middle East, and before I took that leap, before my wife and I took that leap together, we had a coworker who connected us with another guy who was already working at the place that we wanted to apply to, and we were able to, you know, ask all the difficult questions, hear all the good and all the bad, and get you know, a balanced perspective about this thing before we decided that we want to commit this next chunk of our lives to this other place and this other situation. And it's a lot like that with high school students, right?
Exactly.
Going to university, like you're making a huge financial commitment, you're uprooting your whole life, your friends you might be leaving behind, and and you want to have a clear perspective. So
You couldn't just look up Qatar on Yelp? See what they said?
Not so much, man. Not so much. So, it's too bad that it's tricky to monetize that platform, but it's definitely, I could see it filling a real need. And, maybe if since you guys have the experience in that area anyway, there's always, hopefully a chance if it becomes something you can build a business around, then you can reincorporate that into MyCareerCity, right? But very cool. So you guys pivoted. How long have you been, aiming in this new direction?
Yep.
now?
So we pivoted last August, and so it's been just over a year with our new direction. And so over the past year, we've been doing a lot of experiments, testing different business models.
Do you have money now from somewhere?
Yes. And so we're actually fortunate to actually to gain revenue, which is actually a good sign for us, because for the past 4 years prior to the pivot, we didn't make a dime, but now in a position we're actually making revenue, and so it's a good sign for us.
So you can eat. That's important.
Yes.
You can pay your rent or your mortgage, whatever the case may be. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and so for MyCareerCity right now, we're really trying to promote working for a startup for students, again, to gain those skills so they could be much more employable. Sure. And I know Matthew, when he came to us, he's only in the second year, but at Laurier. But when he came to us with his vision, okay, this is what I could do for you guys, I was really impressed. And so I think he's been with us since around April to now. He's grown so much. He's been able to have new opportunities as well. Sure. So that's what we're really trying to be an advocate for the whole student market across North America.
Absolutely.
That's how Laurier does it, buddy.
Laurier represent over here.
I went. I didn't go there for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
I paid, but I didn't show up much.
Fair enough. But that was when you were young and foolish. Now you're older and wiser.
Yes, several weeks ago.
And it's in a different place. Yeah, crazy. Well, it sounds exciting, guys. Like I hope that you guys can push forward and see some real change affected in this area because of your efforts. That's awesome. I know for me, as a guy who has an early stage startup myself, I might not be quite at the level where I'm ready to make use of those services. I'm still kind of keeping it as cheap as possible, but I know when it is time to start hiring talent, especially good student talent, then you guys are on the radar now. Absolutely.
Do you guys do any co-founder matching, or is it sort of co-founder and employee number 1, or are you guys sort of employee number 5 and on, or where does that? Is that a consideration?
It's a consideration long term, but right now, again, we're focused on funded startups, and so typically funded startups already have a team built.
Right.
Sure.
And
right.
So yeah.
Sure.
So there has to be a maturity of the startup, and like you said, it has to have some sort of monetization. Because
exactly.
And I know there's
otherwise it's all equity and nobody gets any money. Everybody's just
exactly. Yeah.
And there are a couple other services out there designed for matching founders with co-founders. I don't know if any of them has really taken off as the one that's doing it amazingly well. But I've tried a few of those out too, which has been okay. But there's no reason why you guys couldn't dip a toe into that market in the future as well.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
is LinkedIn your biggest competition, do you think, or is there somebody out there that's doing sort of what you guys are doing as well?
Yeah, and so we don't see LinkedIn to be our biggest competition because we see ourselves as LinkedIn being much more for the
professionals.
Seasoned professionals, whereas we're for students. I guess indirect competitor would be Talent Egg, who focus on corporate jobs for students. Okay. But again, we're startups, and so it's not really competition.
Right. So you can complement each other.
Exactly. Yeah. And AngelList is similar to LinkedIn in the sense that, they have startups, but it's more so focused towards the seasoned professional.
Right.
And so
and some funding too, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome.
Really neat.
Well, listen, we should wrap things up here. We're coming up on an hour. I forgot to mention earlier, I'll just throw this in here. On our last podcast, we talked about, one of the apps we talked about was an app called Caffeine, which keeps your computer awake by hitting the F15 key in the background every minute. And just so you guys know, whenever we mention another startup or a group or these people we talk about in the articles, we usually try to contact them either through Twitter or through email or something to let them know they've been on our podcast and if they want to give us some feedback. So we did get a little bit of feedback from the creator of Caffeine. He sent me an email this morning just to let us know. I think on our podcast we talked about, is there really, what kind of use case would you really have for an app that keeps your computer from going to sleep? Can't you just change the power power settings, and that's it. So,
and do I have an F15 key?
That's
and where the hell is that?
That's right. So Tom Revel, who created Caffeine, emailed me today and let me know he actually created it because he was working at a company where the system administrators had set on their network that their computers would go into sleep mode after 3 minutes of no activity, and he was getting frustrated with his computer always kind of shutting off on him when he would be looking at one page for 3 minutes without moving the mouse, and so he built this little app just to keep his computer to kind of get around, I guess, the limitations imposed by the system administrators. So not that we're encouraging anybody to kind of go behind your system admin's back, but this is one way that you can do that if they've imposed a really harsh a really harsh setting on your network for putting your computers to sleep. So that makes sense. And I should mention, I didn't use Caffeine, but the other one that we talked about, the mouse jiggler program, I downloaded it, and I've been using it this past week on my computer because I did have an issue with my computer falling asleep at times that I didn't want it to work. And
are you hooked on the jiggle now?
Yeah, it's worked great for me. I'm finding it hard to switch into the post-mouse jiggler kind of work zone.
Once you go jiggle, you never go back.
Every time I sit at my computer, I was jiggling my mouse to wake it up, and now I'm still doing that, and I'm like, oh, no, wait. I just have to turn my monitor back on because I manually just shut off the monitor.
I had that experience when the PlayStation controller went wireless. Right. I always flipped the controller up to flip the cord. And there was no cord anymore. So I did that for, you know what I'm talking about? It was weird. It was like, oh, yeah, that's wireless. The
funny how
phantom cord.
Yeah, the muscle memory gets ingrained after a while, right? But anyway, I wanted to mention that he emailed us, and we don't get a lot of listener feedback, so when we do, I want to make sure we can throw it in there. And on that note...
I wanted to throw one thing out, too.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen. Sorry.
Opportunity to meet one of the hosts, maybe both of the hosts, next week of TSP Weekly. There's another event that I'm going to attend called Brew Over Design.
I've heard of this.
Tuesday, 7 o'clock. It sounds like it's a semi-annual event.
Right.
But it's all the designers and UI, UX people and graphic designers. They're all meeting this Tuesday, the 16th, I believe, at 7 o'clock.
16th.
At DVLB, Death Valley's little brother. So it's a whiskey and espresso bar.
And this is in Waterloo?
In Waterloo, yeah.
In Waterloo, okay.
I love DVLB. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've never been.
For the whiskey or the coffee?
A bit of both.
That's a good answer.
Awesome.
So I'm going to go check that out next Tuesday with a bunch of creative people, and I'm really looking forward to it. So
awesome. You'll be the guy who's... How could they identify you?
I'll be dyeing my hair. Some don't tell her. Not sure what.
Just listen for the voice, I guess.
Just look for snark.
Right. There you go. Well, listen, we want to thank you guys, our listeners, for joining us again on another episode of TSP Weekly. We want to thank Communitech for letting us sit in their blue Star Wars graffitied room to do another recording of our podcast here. And please send us your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback. You can email us at feedback@tspweekly.com. You can find us on Twitter at TSP Weekly, or you can always just leave a comment on our webpage, tspweekly.com, under where you see the podcast posted. We'd love to hear from you. We might even, if we remember, read your feedback on the next podcast. We'd also especially like to thank our guests that we've had today, Mr. I've forgotten your last name. Stephen Amoah.
Yes.
I just don't want to say Stephen. Stephen Amoah and Matthew McCreath from MyCareerCity. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thank you, guys. You guys have been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's great. And to all of our listeners, we'll see you all next week.